Hello, hello, and good day, everyone. Welcome to our New Jersey Family Engagement Hub Lunch and Learn. And today we are doing Unlocking Your Child's Learning Style, tools to get better engaged and become a stronger parent partner. So thank you for joining us. First off, I would like everyone to take a moment and do a little introduction. Let us know who you are. You can put your name in the chat. You can let us know where you are joining us from. Let us know whether you are a parent, how many kids you have, or whether you are an educator or from a community-based organization, or even exciting if you are a student yourself. We welcome everyone to all of our offerings. My name is Kim Rivers. I am the training coordinator for our statewide family engagement hub here in New Jersey, and I thank you again for joining us. And this is our team, our Family Engagement Hub team. You will see some of our team are present with us. And certainly, if you want to go take a look of who we are and what we do, our website, njfehub.org, you can see information about all the different offerings that we have for you. And we are under SPAN. So we work at SPAN Parent Advocacy Network. For those who are not familiar with SPAN, SPAN is the parent center for the state of New Jersey. We are all about providing information, support, training for anyone who is interested in education, disability rights, and so forth. So this is a little snapshot of some of the programs that we have here at SPAN: early childhood, family engagement, juvenile justice. So again, take a look at our website at spanadvocacy.org to learn more. And of course, our Family Engagement Hub. Here we are all about supporting anyone and everyone, families, schools, professionals, youth, about strengthening partnerships and collaboration. The goal of our project is family engagement. So the research does show that the higher the level of family engagement, the higher the student grades, so their success, even not just short term, but also it impacts them long term. So you want to get your kid in a good place. Please make sure that you are working towards increasing the family engagement in your school. And to learn more, go onto our website at njfehub.org. And the struggle is real. The struggle is real. What we are talking about here is the struggle that our students sometimes face when it comes to schoolwork, towards homework. And listen, I would like engagement from everyone here. So if there is information that you feel you can relate to, things that you have a comment about, use the chat, write a comment, respond. I'll have someone read it. If you want to use the emojis on our Zoom, you can react, put a heart, put a thumbs up, whatever you feel, because I think we've all been through this. So I've got 3 kids. My oldest is 24. The next one is 22. The next one is 18. My son in the middle, he's on the spectrum. We've all been there, sitting for hours with a kid that's struggling with homework. And often every kid has a different approach to learning. So you want to get better engaged with your child's education. This is how you kind of figure out what their specific learning style is. So we want to move beyond the classroom. We want to help you become a better partner in your child's academic journey. So maybe try to identify what their specific learning style is. For example, is it visual? Is it auditory? We want to help you figure out how you can best support your student. And that way also move from the kitchen table and that place of frustration into a place of collaboration and discovery. So I want to start with a poll. How does your child learn? Do they learn by A, seeing, that's visual, like pictures, reading, watching videos? Is it B, auditory? That means hearing, listening to stories. Do they need to talk things out aloud? C, does your child learn by doing, whether hands-on projects, so moving things around or building things? Or option D, is it a mixed bag of everything? Or maybe you're not quite sure. Great, so let's see these results. How does your child learn? I see a lot of people have A, so visual learning is a big one. That's actually 50% of our participants. And then D, that mixed bag of everything. So certainly everyone's learning style is different, and let's talk about it. Let's explore what that looks like. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that everyone is represented, and back to visual. I love this image here. It's about the fact that when you read a book, you can really create and explore, and it takes images and visuals off the page and turns it into something that a child can really be inspired by. So this quote is from Albert Einstein: "Imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attractions." And we are all about helping you figure ways to inspire your child about their future, about what they want to do, who they want to be. That's the point of education. So within the construct of family engagement, which is what we do, we want to look at it through that lens of the dual capacity framework. So that is a framework that we base what we do within family engagement. So effective family engagement isn't just about showing up at school meetings, and it is showing up, but it's not just showing up. It's not just checking the grades online. True engagement means building the capacity of families so that families can become co-facilitators in learning. So when we take the time to assess and understand a child's learning style, we are unlocking the tools that they need. And in that way, we are doing some high impact partnership. So moving from passive monitoring to active capacity building, and understanding those learning styles removes that friction from home and builds that systemic equity. So the partnership model, that is where we equip families with the tools to co-design environments, can really have a systemic change, because connected families create that bridge between the classroom and the schools. And it helps you to advocate accurately for your child's needs and build with your teachers and educators and build family engagement. Because everyone learns differently. And of course, even so, the research, the science, when we look at the way in which kids learn, the research does show that, and this is from 2026, that matching a teaching style to a child's favorite learning style does not always improve grades, doesn't always help their understanding, because children tend to pick what feels comfortable for them. They tend to go with what's easiest. So it's like sitting back and listening, but the research shows that what they prefer is rarely what helps them to learn best. So real learning actually requires a bit of an active challenge. You want them to practice skills, maybe skills that they're not comfortable with. Whatever makes them feel comfortable. Sometimes they don't try harder. So you want them to feel that it's a challenge. You want them to reach for something outside of their comfort zone. And in that reaching, in that difficulty, that is where we help our kids to develop skills, to work harder, to solve problems. It's that critical thinking skills that we did a webinar on about 3, 4 months ago. So it's really important to help our kids develop that kind of thinking because when they go out into the world, they're going to have to solve problems that they're not familiar with. Everything they see is not within their comfort zone. So instead of picking one style, use multiple pathways all at the same time, that seeing, that hearing, that doing, in order to create that absolute strongest memories in their brains because, oh, I had to figure this out. This was difficult. You want them to develop that skills of solving problems. And studies show that the top performing students naturally use a mix of learning styles. So they don't rely on just one style. They adjust their habits to match whatever task is in front of them. So we want students to think outside of the box, not just as a visual learner, because then they just want to read books. So, kinesthetic, they want to do activities. We want their brain to handle everything and avoid limitations. So let's talk about the different learning styles. And first off, we have the visual learner, which most of us understand that our kids are kind of connected with. And so visual learning, that's where students are connected with what's in front of their face. So like math and shapes. And actually in the New Jersey learning standards, they use visual tools in all subject areas, especially in math. For example, in graphs or in fraction bars when they're looking at data. And of course, in the classroom, teachers do mirror this by using graphic organizers or charts on their walls or color-coded guidelines. And if you've walked into a classroom that is like second grade and under, you will see they really use a lot of visuals because they know that younger kids are really inspired by what they see. That's how they learn. And so they process that information and they have a keen eye for detail and they may actually struggle with spoken instructions. And so we kind of spot those kids easily. They love books with pictures. They like drawing. They're really good at remembering faces, maybe better than names. And of course, for reading help, the state handbook emphasizes visual word maps, text highlighters, and letter tiles so they can give language a clear visual look. And of course, at home, you can support this by using visual flashcards with pictures, charts, or maps to explain complex concepts, or by helping your child create colorful things with their hands. What do they see? And then play that back to them. And of course, involve them in the different ships. So you can color code everything. Maybe use colored highlighters or for different subjects like math is blue, history is yellow, or use a whiteboard on the wall with a to-do list. So instead of telling them what their chores are or what their homework is, they can look at that to-do list in different colors for the different days of the week, and they can see where they are at. Now, the auditory learner, that kid that really likes hearing. It's all about the power of sound, even like rhythm, spoken communication. So these kids tend to really rely heavily in what they hear in order to make sense of the world. They often remember spoken instructions effortlessly. They use different tones of voice when telling stories. My son does that, and find themselves humming and singing all the time, or even talking out loud. And, some kids, when they're reading books, they need to read it out loud. My youngest child, when she was learning even just regular subjects like history at school, she would actually be reading out loud, and she'd say to me, Mom, I learn better when I hear it out loud. So I have to read it out loud. And that, different kids. And of course, the New Jersey State guidelines are heavily built around what's called phonemic awareness. So, which means children have to learn to hear things and isolate and play with individual sounds and spoken words. And we see that a lot in preschool, even before they start reading. They may have an animal and they may say, okay, the cow goes moo. And that's how they relate. That captures their brain and helps them to solidify what each animal is. And even before they read the word cat in the page, they want to hear and identify the way in which that word is sounded out. So that phonemic awareness, cat, at, cat. So that's how our kids learn, because at the end of the day, we also have to be able to take the words we're saying and put it on the page. And this is really helpful for dyslexia support, where they use structured language programs where students can physically clap or tap out the various syllables. So auditory learner. And that way they can really like hear and get the words connected with their mind. And of course, teachers also utilize this when they are using group discussions or read aloud sessions or hosting songs or rhymes. So I don't know if you know this rhyme. I think most people do, but I think I still use this as an adult when I'm trying to remember how many days are in the month, right? 30 days of September, April, June, and November. All the rest have uh, 28. So there are ways in which our kids learn, and sometimes having a rhyme or singing a song is a way that they can really learn what is happening in the classroom. And also, don't forget all those really great audiobooks. So any book now, you can actually have it in an auditory book. And that way a kid can sit and have the headphones on and read the books, auditorily. And that way you can really have different ways in which to address their learning styles. And there's so many great audiobooks. There's many audiobooks in the libraries as well. And of course, auditory learners are often misread, because sometimes they're thought of as maybe goofing off, or maybe that they can't focus because they're talking out loud to themselves, or because they're humming or narrating or singing, and they're being a distraction. But guess what? That actually might be the way in which they learn. That might be the way in which they process information. And of course, those learners thrive when they hear it repeated out loud or talking through a concept. So at home, maybe if you have an auditory learner, make sure you're talking things out loud with them. I also like the concept of mirroring. So, and we did this in our critical thinking webinar, but when we as adults are faced with a challenge or problem that we're trying to solve in the presence of our kids, we habitually kind of figured out here, say it out loud, kind of model how you are taking the steps to solve a problem. And that really helps an auditory learner. Oh, yes, I can do this, that, and the third to figure things out. And then the kinesthetic learner. So that's a kid who uses their whole body and physical space when they're processing information. So they rely on doing and touching and physical interaction with items. These are kids that are all about their environment. And you can spot these kids very quickly because they tend to have a tough time sitting still for long lectures. They tend to gesture a lot with their hands when talking. And I think maybe I'm a kinesthetic learner too. And they naturally want to reach out and touch. objects so they can feel the texture, feel the temperature, understand it. So for them, instead of looking at the picture, their brain needs that muscle memory of physical action in order to make information stick. And so the hands-on approach is actually required in our state learning standards, especially at preschool. They explicitly mandate what's called tactile learning, which is why early childhood classrooms use materials like Play-Doh, shaving cream, kinesthetic sand. And that helps kids physically trace out things, build things, even creating letters when practicing their sounds. So as students grow, that can then transition to things like the gym or performance art, acting. And so they can continue this focus by um, mastering their body, movement. It's probably a lot in sports as well, because you have to have a lot of spatial awareness and physical coordination and rhythm and all this biomechanics. So at school, teachers support this by using flexible seating, like wobble stools or balance balls, planning interactive learning stations, using physical items to do math, like blocks for counting or building. Have them write out in large letters using chalk on sidewalks outside. And if they're practicing math or vocabulary, they could even pace the room. And I gotta tell you, that's actually a really good way to learn if you're doing acting. And I have an acting background. They say that if you're trying to learn lines, the best way to do it is when you're walking and when you're moving, because that way it's kind of getting into your body in a physical way, and information enters our bodies in so many different ways. I think we tend to kind of limit it to what we see visually or what we hear, but physical learning is a thing that really, we want to be able to utilize and benefit from. And so those learners are, again, often misunderstood, especially in traditional school settings, because they're the ones who can't stay still. They're the ones who, again, are not focused. But for them, their bodies need to be engaged for their brains to learn. So if you have a kinesthetic learner at home, maybe this is your permission slip to get them moving. Let them bounce on a yoga ball while they're doing homework. Use Lego or blocks to model math. Walk around the kitchen reciting the multiplication tables, or even when you're doing cooking, and get their hands in the flour and the dough as they measure the amounts of flour and baking soda and baking powder. If they're studying the American Revolution, act it out. Get them to stand up and move and march and hello. So, that's a physical experience that can really create a memory that a worksheet just can't replicate. Now, putting it all together, multi-sensory learning. This is connecting everything because, as we stated earlier on, the research does show that using multiple senses at the same time is much better than just relying on one learning style. So this approach is all about intentionally blending the visual, the auditory, the movements together instead of keeping them in separate boxes. And when we mix these paths, we help our kids to learn both words and pictures and sounds and feelings to build a long-term memory. So instead of catering to one, multisensory methods forces the brain to form multiple pathways to gather and to learn and to absorb information. And this is like a cross training for a brain. So different methods, and it helps make it easier for a child to recall information later on during a test or when solving a problem. So for example, a student using a plastic letter tile to build a word. Notice how this is a single active task, but it actually hits everything at once. It's visual. It's a colorful tile, different color tiles. So that's a visual anchor. But then it's also physical because they're feeling that plastic and it puts that sense memory. And then as it clicks down, you get that auditory check. So it really has that full kinesthetic auditory connection and visual, and it can activate all the different pathways to build that knowledge. And then it bears mentioning that all of the different creative arts are utilizing all of these methods together. So if you've got a kid who's a singer, music has actually been found to really build math in the brain. You know, you've got kids who like to perform, dance, that learning that space, again, using music, using rhythm, that awareness. If you've got a kid that likes the arts, let them do it so they can utilize and build those strengths. You've got a kid who's not interested in the arts, guess what? Maybe you want to get them outside of their comfort zone. They may discover something about themselves that they did not know before. Because remember, you only know what you know, and you're comfortable with what you know. So we want to really take, especially because it's summertime, right? So summertime is when we're going to get out there and do something different and learn something that we did not or were not able to do because of the constraints of what was available during the school year. And of course, during the school year, there are all of these different clubs that you can get your child to join, because you may spark a learning style that they were not even aware that they had. So utilize it, get them to get outside of their comfort zone. And then, of course, you don't need to be a certified teacher to do these things at home. If you've got a kid stuck on visual reading assignment, then change the mode. Have them read it out loud. Let them act out the scene to get unstuck. Because using regular movement can help to reset that situation, get their attention, because we all get that point where we're stuck. Let them move around, let them rethink it. Try that 25 and 5 rule at home. For every 25 minutes of focused homework, take 5 minutes and do a physical activity, whether they do jumping jacks, whether they take a walk around, walk the dog, go outside, get some sun, just get physical. Stretching, always important. That way, it can really help them to reset their brain. And of course, look for learning opportunities at home. For example, in the kitchen, you can use pizza slices to teach fractions, or you can spread a tray of salt on the counter and then let them write out words or numbers and mirror that active tactile learning. And of course, please, please, please utilize your local public library, because libraries offer extensive collections of learning opportunities. For example, audiobooks, read-along books, stuff that they can highlight text as a narrator speaks. Many libraries also often offer museum passes, so you can give family easy access to spaces and places where there is loads of visual and historical learning and arts you can see and feel. Many libraries also circulate specialized discovery kits. So check in with your library, see if they have STEM backpacks, or coding toys, or math manipulatives, or sensory bins. And you can have that interactive learning right in your local public library. And of course, don't forget, especially now that it's summer, there are all of these great community events happening at the library. They've got library block parties, puzzle clubs, interactive story times. They have people come in and they do performances and places and spaces where your child can have a chance to speak up, to talk aloud, to move, to build and explore concepts in your local library setting. And this is more information about the various resources that we have within New Jersey and summertime. So get out there, take your kids on trips. Visually, they can go to the museum, they can go to the park. There's that great Grounds for Sculpture Park in Hamilton, New Jersey, where they could walk around and there's giant outdoor sculpture pieces, and kids can just be in awe and learn about size, learn about scale. Another great place is the Newark Museum of Art. They've got a lot of historical art, really amazing, beautiful art, interactive galleries where the visual thinker can study patterns, they can study shapes, they can think about cultural storytelling through a visual lens. You can go to a planetarium. And this is for the auditory learners. You go to the planetarium and they tend to have that auditory recording. For example, the Robert J. Novins Planetarium in Toms River, or the Raritan Valley College Planetarium, or we know the Liberty Science Center has a huge planetarium as well. And they can really get immersed in those audio presentations and the narrations when they do the star shows. And of course, for live dialogue and musical rhythms and building sharp learning skills, well, there's also matinees happening at the Paper Mill Playhouse or the State Theater of New Jersey, New Brunswick. And of course, please, 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 it's the summertime. Every county, state park has an entire schedule of events happening, and they have these wonderful outdoor concerts. Expose your kid to different kinds of music with different kinds of rhythm, whether it's jazz, whether it's soul, whether it's rock, whether it's country, whatever it is. These are great opportunities for them to listen to music that they may not have a lot of experience with, and they're happening every single week at every single park. So I believe Alexis is putting those into the chat. Please click on it. All these wonderful concert series. And then to kinesthetic learning, we mentioned the Liberty Science Center. Great place where they can feel and touch and learn. They can even climb structures. They've got touch tunnels. They've got digging zones. Allow kids to learn about science concepts or biology, and they can use their whole body. And then American Dream Mall. I know it's a little pricey, but the American Dream Mall has so many different event spaces and places. For example, the New Jersey Hall of Fame, and that's in East Rutherford, where they have interactive, motion-based simulators that require physical movement in order to navigate, and they can learn history and science. And of course, please, please remember, go to a farm. They can go to a farm and pick blueberries or strawberries or oranges. They can look at the animals and see and feed the animals and touch and smell and taste all that the summer has to offer. So now I'm going to give you a little bit about some upcoming offerings that we have. So this is from SEL4NJ, and this is a workshop on strength-based approach to teaching. There's a QR code. Please, if you are interested and available, it's Wednesday, July 22nd. And then another one from Erica Branton at SEL4NJ, and this is the power of words, How Language Shapes Growth and Connection. And this is on Wednesday, July 29th. Click the QR code and you can register for that as well. And then our upcoming webinar for our Family Engagement Hub. This one is August 11th. That's on a Tuesday. That's at 11 a.m. And it's called Bridging the Gap, Building Strong Communication with the Whole School Team. So this is going to be a wonderful offering that's all about what we talk about most in family engagement, which is communication, partnership, collaboration. So helping you understand how to use your school team to support your child's education and learning. And then there is an Ohio Family Engagement Leadership Summit. Ohio does amazing work with information workshops. So please, if you are available and able, this is an amazing summit that you can join and learn more about family engagement. And the link is going to be in the chat. And then we have a very exciting Lunch and Learn that's coming up next month on August 18th. That's going to be at, let's see, that's 12 o'clock. Yes, so the same as today. It's at Lunch and Learn slot. But this webinar is going to be specific to giving information about how we can support students and families and educators through school transitions. So whether it's a school that's closing down, whether you've got a program that was existing in your school and closing down, we know that this impacts our students. And so we want to kind of explore different ways that we can all support, advocate, collaborate, and utilize family engagement to support students' families through school transitions. And so thank you very much for joining us today. Please, please, before you leave, I ask to do our survey. You can scan the QR code. Alexis is putting the link to our survey in the chat. Doing this survey helps us to continue do all of these offerings and webinars and lunch and learns and work with you and support you with what you need to help increase family engagement. So I thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your summer. And from the New Jersey Family Engagement Hub team, we appreciate your time. Thank you.